It's an honor for Kilpatrick Townsend to have the opportunity to represent individuals and organizations that otherwise couldn't afford it. We expand access to justice by protecting constitutional and civil rights, pursuing immigration relief for people fleeing torture and persecution, help artists and inventors pursue their dreams, and help children remain securely in their schools and in loving families. Here are some of the stories of what our attorneys and staff did last year.
The Kinship Care Clinic is a clinic that we run remotely with the San Luis Valley Alamosa branch of Colorado Legal Services. There are only something like 2 registered attorneys in that area, and it's really rural, it's really poor. Access to legal help is difficult for the people there. There are a lot of families where biological parents are having troubles with drugs or they're in jail, and so these family members will take the kids, but really these caregivers in many cases have no actual legal right, and so we get their information, we review it, and then we have a meeting with them over the video chat, talk with them about their circumstances and help provide some guidance. And this is your best option, guardianship or adoption, or maybe nothing. Maybe they're better off not proceeding, explaining to them the process they need to go through. And then we go as far many times as to help them navigate the process of filling out the paperwork. Seeing these people get such a positive result and knowing that the kids are going to be in a much more stable scenario, it's a different kind of, rewarding experience.
New tonight, the Big Island father is backing up a federal report that says Hawaii public schools are not responding well to bullying and harassment. The father, with 2 boys in middle school, is suing the DOE, and his lawsuit reveals why some teachers are part of the problem. Rick Daysog reports.
My kids were persecuted because of the perception, possibly because I'm their dad.
Joshua Franklin Alameda says his kids were beaten, harassed, and discriminated against by fellow students because he is gay. But what the Big Island resident finds most troubling, and why he's suing the state DOE, is because the school system is doing little to protect his children from the harassment.
This case is about accountability. It's about accountability for the Hawaii Department of Education. What the Franklin boys have been through is shocking. And what our case is about is the fact that the schools did nothing. Oftentimes, the boys were the ones who were punished, instead of the students who were perpetuating the harassment.
He tried to find a lot of attorneys in Hawaii to help, but nobody wanted to go up against the Department of Education in Hawaii.
They dismiss it simply as, oh, this is just name calling. This is just, kids will be kids. This is normal. And you just have to toughen up and deal with it. We need them to recognize that, no, any kind of bullying is bullying.
And that's why it's about accountability. It's about making the Hawaii Department of Education change their policies and find a way to provide a safe learning environment for these children and children like them.
I hope that Josh and his family find peace, but also find the strength to continue to keep going and not give up. Even as they grow into, young adults, I really hope that they are able to gain something from this and that to share the message that it's not going to stop. We're never going to stop.
The Hague Treaty permits a member nation to open its courts to recover a child that has been unlawfully detained from the other parent. In our case, the child was born in the Dominican Republic and shortly after her birth was taken to the United States by her birth father. The story, in part, was that the father had been trying to have a child with someone else, hadn't succeeded, and that my client apparently begged to be a surrogate There are fairy tales in life, but this was one that the judge didn't believe and found there was no surrogacy arrangement. And he said that the halfway credible witness who testified did not persuade him. All the others weren't even halfway credible.
She hasn't seen her child since she was 2 months old, and the child was now over 2 years old. So it was a big relief. She would send us a picture, and she's smiling with the child, and she was overjoyed. It was a rewarding experience for everyone involved in the case.
In 2002, the U.S. Supreme Court issued the Atkins decision, which essentially said that intellectually disabled defendants are not eligible for the death penalty. And suffice it to say that Texas went its own way and had a very idiosyncratic definition of that. What happened in the Moore case, there was a significant intellectual disability, and his trial lawyers preserved that issue and presented it very well in the trial court. They didn't prevail there. They didn't prevail on appeal to the Court of Criminal Appeals, but the U.S. Supreme Court reversed the conviction and sentence of death. So that case is pending now in the Court of Criminal Appeals, and I think a number of other Texas capital cases will be affected by the Court of Criminal Appeals decision in that case. The vast majority of capital defendants are indigent. Funds are not adequate for appointed counsel to do a proper investigation and defense at the trial of a capital case. So it's very important, given that deficit in resources, that firms such as Kilpatrick are willing to step in and fill that void.
How we treat our worst members of society speaks a lot as to the kind of society that we are. There's an agreement among most social scientists that solitary confinement after 5 years, there's been irreparable harm to the psychological well-being of inmates. The gum litigation gave us an opportunity to employ skills that we utilize on behalf of class action defendants to prosecute a class action.
We were involved in taking the depositions of the prison officials that were, in my judgment, very effective in terms of advancing the case. None of the prison officials could explain why Gum was consistently denied release back to the normal prison environment, even though prison officials for years had been recommending his release.
To try to push a little bit against the forces that are incarcerating millions of people in our country. It is important work to make at least those conditions slightly better for the people who are incarcerated.
When I first met the client, he thought coming into the United States that we would have accepted him. We didn't, and he ended up in the Atlanta Detention Center. The client had been tortured once before by the Ethiopian government. Before the immigration court, we actually had evidence from the United States government that this individual in particular had become a target of the government, and because of his advocacy had been tortured. So we ended up being successful with the immigration court. We won because of him. It wasn't anything that we did. He's dedicated his life to his community.
Africa is a rich continent, but the problem that makes it to lag behind is leadership. So I would say if the young generation is empowered and given opportunity to work hard to influence societal change, we can make about change.
The fact that we won gives me hope about kind of where we are as a society and, where we can find justice, and the role of us as advocates giving people like our client access to the courts. And so overall it was a very encouraging and powerful experience.
One of the cases I worked on was for an interpreter who had worked for the 101st Airborne, during which time he went out on 75 missions with them as an interpreter in Iraq. He and his family were receiving death threats from jihadists, and under a special immigrant visa program for people like him, we were able to get him out of Iraq. Unfortunately, he ran into the Muslim ban, and we then ended up with him litigating over the Muslim ban and over when he could stay. The second Muslim ban, which exempted the Iraqis, then resolved that.
I was able to communicate with her in trying to calm her down over the phone because she was afraid they were going to take her son back where he was from, and she was scared that if he would go back, they were going to kill him. So, and I'm trying to comfort her and telling her, no, once he's here, we're going to help you to protect him and help him to get his papers.
It's very satisfying to see people who have a lot of uncertainty in their lives to finally be able to have some sort of certainty about their future, and that they would not be deported, and that they would be able to continue building their lives here.
These clients are in a state of uncertainty. Here we're dealing with someone's life. Specifically for the Ninth Circuit case, if he gets deported, he is facing potential death. The fact that I can do something to help them overcome the different challenges and adversity that they're facing, it's more than rewarding. It's fulfilling.
A lot of us, I think, take for granted the ability to hire legal counsel and, to have someone stand up for us. So many of these clients come to us, they don't feel like they have any options. They don't have anyone to stand up and help them out in court.
Kiowa pipeline litigation is over a natural gas pipeline that runs across a piece of allotted land outside of Oklahoma City. Our clients are 38 individual Native Americans who, because of the allotment system, all own very, very small percentages in this one large piece of property. Pipeline's been there since 1980. Pipelines continued operating across our clients' land with no easement since 2000.
Nobody would take them seriously. They said, you can't fight a pipeline company, and you don't have the money to pay us, and this just isn't going to work.
The only way I can describe our clients' socioeconomic status is they are some of the poorest people that I've ever met. Litigation, stands to seriously change their lives. And one of the things we're pursuing is we're trying to get as much recovery for them as far as damages and forcing a disgorgement of the pipeline company's profits.
I hope that in the end they feel like the system worked for them, and I hope that that turns into a little bit more respect for the Native Americans whose land pipeline company is just using without paying them, or using without paying them a fair price. They're going to get kicked off.
Kelly lives in Oregon, and she runs a business called Illuminature Night that she developed herself, and it's just sort of something she was doing on the weekend, which is putting up string lighting displays at weddings and events. And so as she was developing these displays, she came up with a novel design. We filed a design patent for her on a wine barrel lighting stand. The patent was very important to her because when she was doubting her business, she would just think about her patent, just knowing, like, I've got this patent, I'm going to keep on with this business. Now it's very successful, and this is her job.
Hosea Feed the Hungry and Homeless is a landmark, a charity in Atlanta that's been helping feed the homeless and provide other services to the homeless since 1971.
They were in need of a new facility.
Their existing building was basically unlivable, and they were about to have a significant rent increase that they could not afford.
We found ourselves without a building, and so we had to spread out
And we're operating in 3 warehouses. Our food bank, our rent assistance, our clothing, our medical, all of our programs.
So what we were able to do for them is after they selected the building, we were able to put in the financing so they would be able to acquire that building. The great thing about Kilpatrick is there is the mandate to go out into the community, and we're fortunate that it's such a priority.
It's really satisfying to be able to help people that might be less fortunate or not have access to the legal resources that other people would have.
We were able to purchase a building and are now in a capital campaign to pay for the building. I just want to thank all of you who volunteer every day so selflessly for nonprofits like Hosea Helps, because without you, we could not do the good work that is so increasingly necessary.
The pro bono work that we do, it's an opportunity not only to affect the lives of our clients, but it's an opportunity to educate the public at large, educate the judiciary, and make more wholesale changes that can benefit society throughout the United States.